Hey everybody, it's Chris Eads, known online as Wootini, here with another Gay Gamer video podcast. Starting off with a quick movie review, I went to go see Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I only did it just because, you know, there's not a lot of movies coming out in August, so I figured let me go see something to get my money's worth. I mean, it's okay, because I feel like some months I go to see like 4 or 5 movies, and I see them in IMAX and 3D, so it's okay if, like, 1 month I only see, like, 2 or 3 movies, and, you know, it's not that big of a deal. But I like to see at least 3 movies a month to get my $24 worth, you know. Anyway, and it was actually not a bad movie. I was pleasantly surprised. It was a toss-up between that and The Kitchen, which also had an interesting trailer, but I was more interested in watching some teenagers dealing with ghosts and monsters than I was with, you know, a crime story. So I was pleasantly surprised. Obviously, it's based on the books, but it's obviously not an adaptation of the books because the books are basically these 1 to 2 page, like, brief little scary horror stories for kids. And so what they did was they basically said, let's create a whole story and put the book in it. So you have this, strangely, it's a period piece. It's set in like 1967, which actually works really well because it means the kids don't have cell phones, and they're also not as, like, worldly because there's no internet or stuff, so they're more willing to go, it's more realistic for them to get swept up into the local ghost story legends because it's a small town and it's the 60s, and it's like, okay, it's just more plausible, I guess, than if it was in modern day. So they find the kids on Halloween, they find there's this supposedly haunted house, and they find this book, and there's scary stories, and then the scary stories write themselves, and if they happen to write a scary story that has your name in it, then something horrible is going to happen to you. And it's actually surprisingly scary. I was impressed. There was one really good jump scare that really got me. The monsters are impressive and creepy, and it's a little gruesome, which I enjoy, because I always enjoy that. And so I imagine that, like, kids would go see this and be scared, and if it gives younger children nightmares, then yay. As for gaming, as I mentioned last week, since I finished Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I started Detroit Become Human. Which, for whatever reason, I keep wanting to call Detroit Becoming Human, but whatever. It's another David Cage adventure game from Quantic Dreams, and it is basically the same gameplay, quick time events, button pressing, whatever. And this time it's set in the future, and it is a world where people have android servants, but the androids are starting to rebel against their programming, and they've run off and they'll kill humans and assault humans, and now people are angry at the androids and what's happening. And you're basically splitting the gameplay between 3 different androids, one of which is a cop. The other 2 are servants who then rebel against their programming. They fight back against their programming, and they become free, in a way. And then the cop has to, you know, stop them, but I have to admit that when playing the cop trying to stop the other player character, didn't try that hard, because I wanted her to get away. The story is good. It's not subtle. Like, early on, there's a scene where somebody takes a public bus, and you see that the androids have to stand in a special compartment at the back of the bus. Not subtle. They're second-class citizens, people are protesting, they're losing their jobs to these. So it's a whole thing of, like, race and everything, and it's not subtle. But it's an intriguing story, and I will give him credit, sort of, for, like, in the beginning of the game, one of the characters that you're playing, Kara, a young female android, she has been bought by this a-hole drug addict to take care of his little girl. And he's a terrible person. the androids are always good and the humans tend to be a-holes, so it's not subtle again, I said. But it was interesting because you start by, like, okay, clean up the house, and you have to go and do these rudimentary tasks and clean up the house and do this sort of thing and that sort of thing. And then you have to make them dinner, and then you have to serve them dinner and everything. And I was like, you know, doing these rudimentary tasks is so boring and annoying that I'm all ready for this android revolution. And I feel like they could have done a little more with that, because it was just a brief little nugget of an idea that I'm like, this is an interesting way to use the gameplay to help inform your playstyle and emotions and whatever, and it kind of worked on another level, and it was just a nugget, and I don't feel like it really was explored. I think it might have been accidental, I don't know. The basic game is fine. It's the standard QuickTime events and the exploring and stuff. The graphics are terrific. Everything looks super real and great, except for the mouths. They can do the best motion capture they want, but they just can't seem to get the lip sync to really make it look like people's lips are forming those sounds. Like, the menu screen, there's a female android that looks so real, except for the mouth. And she also creeps me out because, like, I played it and then I came back the next day to play some more, and she was like, "Hi, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your I hope you enjoyed your session yesterday. Let's do it again." And I was like, "Ah, that's creepy." That was kind of effective. And they could do more of that sort of thing. The gameplay itself is the usual button presses, which, as always with these David Cage adventure games, range from weirdly intuitive to completely bizarre and unnatural. And it just swings wildly in between both. Sometimes you're just, moving the joystick and it feels kind of natural, and then other times you have to, like, hold, press, and then turn, and it's like, no, that's just annoying and weird and unnecessary. And after each chapter, which unfortunately that tends to be your trophy screens, are just these charts, the flow charts, that show, like, the choices that you made. And it's very interesting after each chapter to look back at the choices that you've made. And you can also turn on the percentages to see what percentage of the game players out there in the world made the same decisions as you. And then you can then filter it to be just your friends, to see how many of your friends made the same choices as you. And then sometimes there's entire sections where it's like, oh, I didn't investigate something, so I missed a whole section of story that I could have uncovered. And then other times, like, it depends on a choice you make. Like, in the next chapter, since you chose to stay overnight in one location, the other two locations are, like, you don't even get to do any of that. There's no chance to do any of that, because that's not where you stayed. You'd have to play the game multiple times in order to get 100% completion in every chart. I don't see that happening. I don't think the story is compelling enough to make me want to go back and do it again. I did replay one chapter, though, because at the end of the chapter, Connor, the extremely handsome android cop, who I have a crush on, total crush on, he ended up dead at the end of a chapter, and I was like, whoa, where did it, just out of nowhere. I thought everything was going fine, I thought this was the good ending to the chapter, and then he got shot and dead. And I was like, oh, okay, no, we're redoing that. Because it's like, I'm not even a quarter of the way through the game, and one of the main characters is dead. It would certainly make the rest of the game a lot easier and shorter, because I would only then be playing the remaining two characters, I guess. I don't know what it would do. I should have stuck with it just to see. But then I would have to play it again so I could get the full ending at the end. But I don't want to have to replay it again, because I did check a walkthrough, and I am about halfway, I'm just almost halfway through the game. Unfortunately, that took me a week to do, and I've not been playing it every day. And I wish I had, because I'm going to stop on Wednesday, because Wednesday is when No Man's Sky Beyond comes out, and everything is going to stop while I play No Man's Sky Beyond. So that's when Detroit gets shuttled to the other side, and then we'll see if I ever go back to it. Because, as you know, if you've been watching these podcasts for any length of time, you know I love No Man's Sky. I have not played it in a long time, which is why I wasn't playing Detroit all of last week, because sometimes I would play No Man's Sky to, refresh my memories and remember the controls and how to do everything and how everything works. It's been like months since I played No Man's Sky. So I wanted to refresh my memory and stuff. So before Beyond, because Beyond is a massive update which contains the biggest thing that I have been waiting for since the very first day that No Man's Sky was released and I brought it home and played it, because it was amazing, and I was like, this game is so beautiful and amazing, and I love exploring all these planets, and the only thing that could make it better is if it was in VR. And then they kept improving the game, but it wasn't in VR, and that's all I really wanted. Some of the improvements have been good, and some I didn't care about. But VR is the one that I'm like, oh my god, yes. Give this game to me in fully 3D VR where I'm just in it. That's what I want. And Beyond actually has 3 major updates to it. One is the VR, 2 is a new multiplayer area called the Nexus, where I guess you can just gather with everyone else playing it at the time, and you can like chat and stuff. Because the thing with No Man's Sky is they added proper multiplayer, which people complain there was no multiplayer, and I'm like, I don't care. I just want to play this by myself. I love exploring the planets by myself. It's very solitary, it's very soothing and relaxing, and I love it. So multiplayer to me was kind of like, eh. I only liked it one time when the game changed. It had a big update with the multiplayer, and it changed like some of the biomes and stuff. And one of the people that I know online was like, hey, listen, I am now stuck in a system with one planet, and it's crazy hostile, and I don't have a warp drive to get to another planet, another system. Can I come to your game and explore your planets and get the resources I need? And I was like, yeah. I actually just explored a freighter and picked up a few warp cores, so I'll just give you a warp drive so that you can just go ahead, and it'll be easy. So I was able to help him out in his game, and that was super cool. And that was not possible before multiplayer. But I tend not to play multiplayer, because I just want to be by myself. So I don't know how I'm going to enjoy this Nexus Hub with like everybody in it and the whole thing, and it's going to be like, you can go off and do different things from there, and it's like, not really into that. And then the other aspect of the update is harder to pin down, because it's going to be like a whole bunch, like a whole list of just various gameplay improvements and tweaks and updates. Like in the trailer you can see you're able to ride some of the alien creatures now, which is kind of cool, but I don't really care so much about that. You can also milk them, and then you can also farm, and then you can take the items that you produce through your farming and the milk, and then you can cook them and then make things, and I guess you sell them for a lot of money, because I don't understand what the point of that would be, to make these recipes. Just experimenting with different ingredients and making stuff, it's just weird. Because that's a whole aspect of No Man's Sky that I have never done. When I play No Man's Sky, I am all about the exploring. I get in my ship, I go to a new system, I explore every planet and moon in that system, I catalog all the animals and plants that I can, I learn some alien languages and discover things there, artifacts and whatever, and then when I am done, and I feel satisfied, I move to the next system. And I just continue moving from system to system to system, exploring, exploring, exploring. I am all about exploring. I made a base, and then one of the updates borked my base planet, which was beautiful, and now it became a toxic wasteland, so I was like, okay, never mind. So I moved my base to another planet, but the update also like borked my base, so like certain things that were in there like aren't there, and then certain things don't work anymore, and there's like grass growing through the floor, and I'm just like, well, this is terrible and horrible, and I don't like my base anymore. And I just never got into the base building aspect of it. And then they added like, you know, the terrain manipulation and everything. So there's all these people out there that are making these huge, because there's a creative mode that you can play where you can just build crazy shit. And there are people doing some amazing stuff. Very creative. I don't care about doing that sort of thing. So I don't really see myself, it's not like Animal Crossing where I want to have a house and build and do things and decorate it and whatever. Like, because that's all about being in the town. But with No Man's Sky, I can't bring myself to build a life for myself on one particular planet when there's so many other planets out there to see. I just want to see everything. So, I don't know. Maybe there will be some new cool updates in that list of various updates that are about exploring. But I feel like it's mostly about base building and stuff. We'll see what happens on Wednesday. So, come back next time, and I will tell you all about my VR No Man's Sky experience. My plan is, I'm going to play it in 2D first to make sure that they didn't update and change the systems and everything like last time, where they changed all the elements and how you fuel your ship and you had to like relearn everything. That was super annoying. I just want to make sure everything's cool and everything's good and I'm on a nice planet to explore. Because I'm on a nice planet to explore, but it might change. Or it might put me on a space station, which usually means they've mucked everything up and the whole universe has changed. Then, once I've, made sure everything's kosher, then I'll plug in my VR headset. And I'm probably going to try playing it with just the controller, with the control scheme that I know, to get used to being in that VR space and playing it in VR. Then I'll try doing the move controllers, because that's learning a whole new control scheme with all the different buttons and how to do things and stuff. So, unless once you first plug in your VR headset, it's like, here's how to do the move controllers, here's the tutorial, then I'll end up doing that. But I want to try to like ease into it. Ease into the VR, then ease into the VR with the move controllers, and we'll see. So come back next time, and I will tell you all about my VR space exploration. Bye!